Ladies and gentlemen, I start with an apology. An apology especially for those people who are expecting a tall, handsome Indian Army captain, 6 feet tall, six-pack abs to match, and here you are, 5 feet something, with a belly which is more perfectly round. You may ask, why so? It's been 20 years since I hung my uniform. And in these 20 years, a little more good food and a little less exercise. And also the fact that all warriors need some comfort after they've fought all their battles. So, friends, let's talk about who I am. From the most elite battalion, the 3rd Battalion of the 8th Gorkha Rifles, which is fondly called the 3rd 8th, that's how we were called. We are the same regiment to which Field Marshal Manek Shah, Sam Bahadur, belongs to. 3rd 8th Gorkhas is known for its medals, which start from the Paramveer Chakra to all the medals that's been ever instituted by the Indian government. Friends, now that the apology is out of the way, let's ask this question about leadership. I'm going to talk about something where you are going to imagine something which is ordinary and see how leadership can be found in ordinary things, but that's a question for which you will get an answer little later in the speech. Let me ask you this question. What would you think when I talk about leaders? A grand visionary? Someone who could move millions of people with just a sign or a gesture? What if I tell you, leadership is not in those monumental institutions, but it is on mediocrity. All it requires is your presence. This was on 19th April 2000. Srinagar, Kashmir. The winter is still there. Spring slowly creeping in. The weather is cold, but the atmosphere, friends, is hot and charged. You can see that in all those jawans, the soldiers who sometimes easily outnumber civilians. Tension everywhere. 3 days before, on 16th April, I, as a young lieutenant in his early 20s, came on my first field posting. I marched up to my commanding officer to report. A very cheerful young colonel, full of josh. He came, he hugged me, and he asked me to sit. Asked me the normal pleasantries. And then he asked a question which completely took me off the ground. He asked me, Muthu, do you have a girlfriend? I don't remember what I said, or more accurately, I don't want to reveal what I said. But I do remember what he did after that. He called his orderly and asked to bring an AK-47, assault rifle, and he gave it to me. And he said, Muthu, from today onwards, she is your girlfriend. You will be with her. You will live with her. You will eat with her. And you will sleep with her. And breaking up is not an option. Here I am, never touched an AK-47 before, because in the academies and in the peace time, we used what is called the self-loading rifle or the INSAS. And AK-47 is used in the combat areas. And when I got those AK-47 in my hand and when my commanding officer said that she is your girlfriend, I didn't know whether which was more complex and complicated and strange, girlfriend or an AK-47. I would know the results later on, which I'll share with you. But as of today, here I am, an officer, and I was given the charge of the security of the 15th Corps, which is the unit which is there in Srinagar, which takes care of the entire anti-militancy operations. And here is a lieutenant holding an AK-47, which he has never used before. Coming back to 19th April, had a sumptuous lunch in the officers' mess, and friends, the food in an officer's mess is sometimes far, far superior than the best food you can get in any 5-star restaurants. The weather was pleasant, and I was slowly succumbing to have a nice sleep. Suddenly, by about 3 o'clock, I saw a flash. And instinctively, I picked up my girlfriend, my AK-47, which I never used before, and rushed out of my post, which was about 30 feet from the main gate. And what I saw was probably a nice, decent car, but now a mangled heap of metal burning and bodies everywhere. Soldiers, civilians. The one thing that I remember was a little boy, probably 10, 11 years old. His shirt, I didn't know which color it was drenched with blood. I didn't know whether he was looking up or looking down because his head was not in his body. His limbs were twisted. I was there, standing, stunned, stupefied, with an AK-47 in my hand, which I never used before. And within the next 2 seconds, the post commander, a senior JCO Saab, a Subedar, came running towards me and said, "Saab, suicide attack tha. Abhi kya karu?" This JCO Saab, whose experience in counter-insurgency operation is probably longer than my age at that time, coming to me and asking for directions, and I, as a young lieutenant, standing there with an AK-47 assault rifle that I had never used before. Later on, I came to know that this was the first ever recorded suicide attack in the history of Kashmir insurgency. Kashmiri militants don't do suicide attacks. They come, they fight, and they might die. But this is the first ever suicide attack in the history of Kashmir insurgency, happened in my post, and I was there, standing with an AK-47 assault rifle, and I've never used that before. Within a couple of minutes, the sub-area commander, who is a veteran, a brigadier, he is an army commando from the 10th Para SF, he came, a towering figure, 6 feet 4 inches, come straight to me, he came straight to me, and I was there standing, not knowing what to do, and chaos everywhere. Came and told me, "What are you doing here? Your men needs you," and pushed me there. And he said one thing that I would remember today. What they need is not your orders, but your presence. And he is a veteran of Indian Army, a person, one of the most highly decorated officers from Ati Vishish Seva Medal, the Vishish Seva Medal, and more importantly, the Veer Chakra that he got in Sri Lankan operations. Went in, and all my men wanted was my presence. And once I stood there, the men started on their feet. Cut over to 2nd July 2000. By now, I knew how to use my AK-47. I went and got trained in the Corps Battle School, And let me tell you, it's a confession. An AK-47 is more predictable than a girlfriend. And it's easy to understand. So, with this newfound energy of knowing how to use an AK-47, on 2nd of July 2000, I was summoned to the sub-area and to meet the commander. I went in, gave a salute, and the brigadier asked me to sit down. He said, Muthu, 2 months, how is it? I said, great, sir. So he looked at me and said, I know what you did on that day. And I'm going to tell you something that will help you to be a great leader. He said, I'm going to give you 3 ordinary lessons and follow them. It's been 24 years, 1 month and 29 days since that day, the 2nd of July 2000 till today, that I learned these leadership lessons from one of the finest officers I ever served under, a commando. He retired as a general. And those lessons that he said at that time was as relevant as today, as it was 8,827 days ago. And it's my privilege to share those with you. 3 lessons. He said 3 lessons is all that you have to do to become a great leader. And what are those? The first thing he said is, Peet me maro, peet me nahi. You can kick as much as you want the back of a Jawan. Never ever touch his stomach. Behind every soldier is a few more mouths to feed, a few more souls to save. If you cut the salary, because as officers, we are authorized to cut the salaries of our Jawans if they do any disciplinary violations. We have the authority. But he said, never ever do this. You can give them any other punishment, but never stop their salaries. The day you stop their salaries, you lose your quality to lead them. The second is a very interesting thing. You see the words there, but what he said is never stop somebody's leave. It's not you to prioritize the leaves of your men. The most happiest moments for a soldier is when he go home and meet his loved one. And who are you to decide when they should go home? Never ever do that. It is not for you to decide their priority. By then, there was a knock on the door and an orderly came with some hot piping mushroom soup, because that's what you get in army rations, and some puppets which are not fried but roasted. Like now you know why army officers have a 6-pack, right? So he gestured me just to have that, and I took, and he also took a sip, and he kept quiet. Well, I didn't have the guts to ask him what is the third, lesson. I was waiting for him to say. After a couple of sips, he said, and the third most important lesson that you should learn if you are leading your men to war is dignity. These men earn their stripes and stars with a lot of toil. And if you give them the dignity, then they will be ready to give their life for you. They will be ready to shiver with you in cold and sweat with you in sun. And they will be even ready to give their life, provided you give them the dignity. Never ask someone to do what you would not do. With these 3 lessons, his soup was over, got up, and as all para commandos do, they have a maroon beret. He wore that beret and he just walked off. Tuck, tuck, tuck. You can see his marching out of you can hear that. And I was there, standing, thinking about these 3 lessons. Great leadership is not about telling others what to do. It is showing people with their presence. Mahatma Gandhi, when he did Dandi March, he never asked everybody to march along with him. He said, I am going to march. And people followed him. Mother Teresa never asked everybody to come and be with her. She said, I am going to serve the poor and the destitute. People came to them. That is true leadership. TED is ideas worth spreading. And today, I am going to leave you with this idea. The idea of a leadership, that leadership is not in creating monumental vision, but it is the minuscule mere presence. It's your presence that is required and not the perfection. And as I close these ordinary lessons for an extraordinary leadership, I would leave you with these thoughts about presence and not perfection. Thank you very much.